Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the desk. Mars One, Middlecott, and Random M Caster, because that's his Twitter handle.
What does the M stand for?
Oof, mysterious. Mystery.
A mess today, apparently, but I'm going to let it go wherever it wants to go.
And with a perfect segue into our final game of AXIZ versus Crest Gaming, I think, gentlemen, that's what we want. Middlecott, this is a match that has no bearings on anything. So we should see weird and wacky and crazy, right?
This game is profoundly unimportant for League of Legends, not just today, but for tomorrow and the day after and every day after that. This game does not matter at all. You could pick whatever the hell you like and no one will judge it for you in years to come. AXIZ, CGA, I want madness, I want dumb stuff, I want Twitch, Samira, Yumi, Udyr? I want stuff. I want crazy things. Give it to me.
Actually, not crazy, but
yeah.
RMC.
But I want him regardless.
Fair. You know what? We all want something here.
What are we gonna see? Middlecott's already said a few champions. I want some more thrown out there. What crazy stuff could I see? We've already seen a Sion mid.
True. That's the floor of today.
And we saw Yorick top 3 days ago.
That was a banger.
Yeah, that was actually a legit game. I want to see Sanctuary pull out Samira. I think Samira right now is the flashiest AD carry, and I want to see a Samira. So that would be absolutely great. What else do I want to see? Yumi mid? Actually, that's probably asking a little bit too much. I mean, Sion, Yumi, same thing, right? Top side, AXIZ, Yellow Yoshi or Totu. Whoever's playing, I kind of want to see them on their signature champ. I know that Poppy gets permabanned against Yellow Yoshi, but come on, CGA, what's the harm here?
Give it over.
Yeah,
we are having Yellow Yoshi.
It is Yellow Yoshi. Okay.
He's come back in, so hopefully we'll get to see it. I mean, 2 days ago wasn't so great for him. Did not have a fantastic performance. He is going up against Nap. And Middlecott, I'm going to come over to you. Yellow Yoshi, assuming he gets his Poppy. Let's just run the idea he gets his Poppy.
Okay.
Because I think that's the far more interesting, entertaining thing to do here. Versus Nap, who is maybe one of the strongest weak side, but has also been doing a few more carry performances as well on CGA. How do you think Yellow Yoshi's going to stand up to him?
Poorly.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I think this game is well and truly already in the books. I think it's Crest Gaming Act, everything. I mean, in all seriousness, Middlecott, how do you actually think this game is going to go down?
So I think that if we're talking about a general direction for this game, has to be the bot lane. AXIZ and CJ have been about their AD carries this split. Almost exclusively hybrid for CJ. We always talk about him. Top 40 challenger career. This guy is legit. His DPM numbers are insane. He's so aggressive. And whenever he thinks that he's got an advantage in a fight, he will push it to the absolute limit. Sanctu coming in for AXIZ. Bit more of a rookie player. Doesn't have as much of the competitive experience, but has really been shining as the main carry for this team. Zeri looks absolutely phenomenal, and it's been permabanned against him pretty much this entire split, but he also functions incredibly well on the other sort of hyper carry. So I think bot lane, really the place to watch.
Sanctu is one of those players where I'm watching them now, and I feel like in 3 years, they could be where Honey is.
Yes.
Like, legit knocking on the door. Well, I'm
3 years.
saying, like,
I'm saying 3
this
splits,
year,
man.
third split in their career is what I should have said. I should have preferenced that better. You called me out correctly, Middlecott. That's fair play. That's fair play. Though RMC on the other side, he's against Hybrid. That's not an easy player to go against. And also Nemo, who in my opinion can always fight for top 3 in this region at the moment. Ever since that summer performance, I've always known in my back of the head, never count out Nemo. Pick up that point because it's pick and bad phase, my dude.
I'm not sold on Nemo just yet. I don't think we're going to be seeing any bends thrown at Nemo here. Nemo has high skill ceiling, but the floor not always the highest here. Now, we're into picks and bans, and interestingly enough, no Zeri ban just yet. Surely you've got to ban it here, because the one time Sanctu got it, Sanctu got a quadra kill.
Yeah, and I feel like the onus really isn't on CGA to take it away, because they could just B1 it if they want to. Ari take it away from Megamin, a champion that he has tended towards a little bit in recent weeks, as can act as one of those enabling sort of picks, which has kind of been Megamin's style ever since he joined the LJL. Kaito Zoe actually be taken off the table, so the Zeri is available.
It is. And right now, with the way the meta has gone, jungle priority is actually the highest. Hecarim, Volibear being the two junglers that everybody wants to get their hands on. CGA, okay, they pick Zeri. Now, pick Samira. No cap. I'm not even joking with this. Okay. Samira is good into Zeri. She can actually reach the Zeri. She out damages the Zeri, and the Blade World cancels so much about it. Sanctuary, please make my day.
Oh, I like seeing AD carry counter picks. It feels like Jinx Aphelios has kind of been the trade for a little bit too long. And honestly, I feel like we've all seen the way that matchup goes with Jinx being so dominant in pro play and Aphelios really being relegated to that second tier pick. Pick that definitely isn't second tier is this Hecarim has really risen to the top in terms of priority of those junglers. And the Nautilus is going to be locked in for Dicey as well.
Interesting that they're putting the Nautilus this early. We've seen a lot of Nautilus depth charge being used as the answer to the Zeri. You can run as fast as you want. The depth charge will eventually hit you, and if you go the wrong way, you might drag it through your entire team. So I like the Nautilus blind here early, and because you already see their AD carry, you don't need to pick yours this early. You can go for that priority pick and then R3 your AD carry, or you can actually even leave it for second rotation because there's actually quite a few answers to Zeri right now. Kai'Sa being another one who can all in her. Twitch can outburst her as well, but CGA for now they're going with the Volibear, which is sort of the trade with that Hecarim there, and the Rise, which just sees so much priority. It's especially notable that Kaito has not played Rise a single time this split.
I was going to say it's really been the highest priority mid lane pick in the LJL so far this split. But like you were saying, CJ's mid laner has not opted towards it. You were talking about potential counters to this Zeri in the bot lane. Kai'Sa, Nautilus sounds like a pretty good duo to do that.
Yeah, though I would say that if you are going to run the Kai'Sa as a counter to Zeri, you need to go AD, not AP here, because AP takes time to scale. And by the time AP Kai'Sa is online, Zeri starts building tank already, and you can't dive that backline quite as efficiently anymore. You relegate it to being a poke bot. So if anything, middle court, maybe flex that Kai'Sa mid if you want an AP Kai'Sa here, and then Samira, it's still on the table. Come on, AXIZ. I know I'm smoking hopium right here.
A little bit, and I don't really feel like Kai'Sa fits into my conception of Megamin as a player. Maybe he's pulled out something a little bit different. We'll have to see. AXIZ focusing their bans to a couple of these sort of like bruiser supports, really. That's where we've been seeing Set, and then obviously Tankech providing a lot of that safety. CGA, though, they know that Megamin loves these mages and have taken two of those off the board as well. AXIZ, do they go for the mid lane here, or do they try and save counterpick for it and go for a top laner instead? Syndra appears to be the hover here.
Okay, and Syndra, I mean, nice safe champion, gives you that early pressure. It's pretty good setup for the Hecarim as well, so I wouldn't hate it if it does get locked in. The thing I hate most is the fact that we're not going to see a Samira with that Syndra lock-in, but, well, that's the last time I'm going to mention that. We're still looking for a top laner for AXIZ here, and Poppy is available for Yellow Yoshi. We're saying, hey, you know, we want to just see him on that signature pickup here in CGA. The question is, what top laner are they going to blind here? Probably something that can handle that Poppy, I would assume.
Generally, yeah. I think you want to pick a champion that is strong against the champion it's likely going to be going to. Nappa's kind of defaulted to a little bit of these weak side picks, stuff like the Gnar, stuff like the Gragas, and this Renekton. So CJ building a couple of beefy boys for their front lines and a lot of scaling damage sources. AXIZ, though, they've got a couple of pick potential tools, and if this is going to be a Gnar in the top lane, another champion that can engage in skirmishes quite well.
Oh man, okay. You know what? I actually think Poppy into Renekton's a perfectly fine pick.
You think you would have liked to see the Poppy, but RMC, man, LJL, final day of the split, final game of the split. Of course, it has to be Gnar Renekton in the top lane.
That's fair. They were doing it for the greater good here. I was selfish. I just wanted to see, you know, Yellow Yoshi. But you're right. The LJL needed to end with Gnar Renekton. What else would signify LJL more than this? Now, my issue or my fear more so with this Gnar pickup for Yellow Yoshi is that, first of all, he hasn't played it all split, even though it is an LJL special. AXIZ as a whole has not played around Gnar. And the Gnars we've seen today, not been the hottest so far. They've been doing fine in lane, but the Mega Gnar rage control and team fights, not so much here, middle court.
Yeah, and I mean, Yellow Yoshi is a player that I think is a bit more comfortable on tanks. Like, we have seen him go towards that Poppy. We've also seen Malfights from him. They haven't looked amazing, but it's kind of just him being diffed in the lane, which I think that something isn't necessarily a massive problem for the NAR. But yeah, first timing it in the last game of the split. We wanted to see some different stuff. It's different stuff, kind of not the different stuff that I wanted to see. RMC, I was hoping for something a little bit spicier, but continuing with a little bit of that innovation, experimenting, which I think is what you want to be doing if you're AXIZ right now.
Yeah, because for AXIZ, they're in a similar boat where V3 was in. They are 7th place. This is our last game we're going to see of them here in the spring split. And so you have nothing to lose whatsoever. Yeah. This is partially exhibition match, partially highest level scrim you could possibly get. So yeah, try and figure out what's going to work for you. They're going with a sort of all-in composition, strong comp going in here. Nothing too crazy like I mentioned, but your play style, right? I want to see balls to the wall aggression come through for both of these teams, really, because as much as we say that both teams play through their bot lane, I will say I think that CJ has looked best when Kassin is aggressive in the jungle early on. You've got the Volibear, you've got the stronger ganking jungler pre-6 here. I want to see Kassin get pretty aggressive too with these lanes. What can you find? What sort of lead can you generate?
And CJ have really lived and died by their jungler. When Kassin's been able to make stuff happen, it has looked amazing. When he hasn't been able to make stuff happen, it has looked substantially less than that. We are on to the rift for the final game of the LJL 2022 Spring Regular Split. CJ on the blue side, AXIZ here on the red. No stakes in this matchup apart from pride. And of course, form heading towards playoffs for CJ AXIZ. Going to be taking a long break after this one, hoping to come back stronger in summer.
You know what, Middlecall? Let's add stakes. What game is fun without stakes here? The stakes on the line, my sanity. Let's see if these teams can blow my mind here with their gameplay. We had some questionable plays last game, some fun ones to be sure here. And yeah, I want to see more of that. I just want to see like a bloodbath here, and winner gets to take my sanity home.
Well, that's certainly a prize that you can claim. I'm not sure how much that's worth. Does that go in your tournament results on Leaguepedia? Is that like a section that you can have there? Stole RMC sanity?
Subreddit for some team. Like the trophy case is just RMC sanity. Hey man, I'm just gonna say my sanity has been tempered in NA and Brazil, man. Like, come on, LJL, it's worth something here.
You got mental fortitude that maybe some people wouldn't necessarily expect. Blitzcrank bot there, just showing a slight advantage for Crest Gaming Act, of course. Only really taking into account the compositions, but I think on balance, looking at the players on both sides, I feel like CJ would have to be favored as well. Both junglers are starting here on the top side of the map, going to be pathing towards that bot lane, putting that focus into the lane that we already highlighted as going to be pivotal for this matchup.
Yeah, a couple of things to note with this sort of start here. Swamp on the Hecarim actually going up to take those Krugs. It's a full clear coming through, so Hecarim gonna be later on any sort of gank if they do go for that, whereas Kassin likely to skip Krugs if he thinks he can force some sort of gank bot side, but unlikely right now as Hybrid and Nema are pushing in, and it is happening partially because Nema hit level 2 on that Leona first as well. So Sangchu and Dicey definitely have to respect that. It's a bit dicey for AXIZ as well, because you saw Blitzcrank over there, the bot trying to figure out who's going to win. The scaling from Ryze and Zeri are going to be way better than Syndra and Kai'Sa here. So AXIZ do need to be aware of the timing and try and play for that mid game.
Going to be dicey for AXIZ, yeah? Is it RMC? As it might be dicey for Dicey here as he's taking a fair bit of damage on his back.
I said I wasn't gonna do that.
You didn't even mean to, but it happened serendipitously by accident, which made it so much better. I do kind of want to dive into this bot lane matchup a little bit more because we have highlighted how important it's going to be. Where are we looking at for spikes as Nema is already engaging onto Sangchu, a level up here now with that level 3 hit. Hellablade's trading back fairly effectively though, but the damage definitely going in CGA's favor for the time being.
Yeah, so in terms of spikes here, let's start with CGA and Hybrid, right? You're looking for sort of that 2-item power spike for a Hybrid here, assuming that we see the Bruiser build come through, you know, with that Trinity Force into the Ravenous Hydra or the Titanic Hydra there. If that's the case, it's a 2-item power spike. And for Sanctuary here, I'm looking for 80 power spikes. Once you complete your first mythic, especially if you're going something like the Guild Force or Kraken Slayer here, then you go, as soon as you got that mythic and you've got your ultimate, you dive hybrid and try and kill him while he's still squishy before he builds health items. If we see AP Kaisa, then you're looking at 3-item power spike at that point, because you need the Manamune, you need the Ludens. And actually, you know what? I don't even say 3-item power spike. Just go for 2-item power spike and you're just poking. You're not looking to engage unless you've got hybrid down to like 30% health. And as for hybrid here, if you're going with that sort of that immortal shield bow build, that defensive style, or even with an 80-item build, then in that case, you know, you can kind of go in whenever you've got that completed, as long as Sanctuary is not built 80 as well.
And Nemo is playing with a lot of freedom so far in the bot lane. We've seen him a couple times go for those Zenith Blades in onto Dicey and trade a fair bit of health bar off of the Nautilus. Does mean that he's running a little bit low on mana, so if a fight were to break out, potentially going to be less effective than he would be ideally. Kaito, roaming a little towards this bot side, will spot out that ward, which was placed to stop him from roaming towards the bot side. CJ shoving in this bot lane, going to reset.
I like that from Kaito, because Kaito's not 6 yet. No realm warp available means that you're not necessarily looking to actually force a gank here. You're just setting up for that level 6 when you can start roaming here, so that you don't have to clear it then. I like the proactive thought. I just don't know if it's necessarily going to come to fruition. We do see Hybrid and Nema back in already here to get their first buys, and it's all falling together. The mid lane should be hitting 6 soon as well here, and Sanctuary, Dicey, the lanes have reset, so it should be gankable. And speaking of ganks, Kassin, Nema?
Flash rune prison. Nema flashing, but not quite in range. Megamin, he felt that one, escapes by the skin of his teeth in the mid lane. CJ, though, still going to secure priority, could look for Drake or could look to dive this bot side.
Yeah, they're setting up for this gank here. No Kaito needed necessarily. And the question is, do AXIZ? No, Swamp not yet level 6 either. And without that onslaught of shadows, a 3v3 should go the way of CGA here with that Volibear to back them up.
Sanctuary must know, though. Hybrid holding the wave here for such a long time, trying to deny as much CS as possible. Dicey going to be spotted clearing that ward in the mid side. 6 minutes into the game, no kills going down just yet. Both teams seem to be content trading pressure as it stands.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm actually a little bit surprised that the gold is as even as it is right now, Middlecott, because when I'm looking down the CS numbers, top side is an issue right here. Yellow Yoshi on this Gnar is not having a good time, and we kind of expected it. Yellow Yoshi has been struggling in lane, actually has the lowest CS or gold difference at 15, CS difference at 15, and while part of it is because he played those supports early on, he's also just been generally struggling in lane. So we expected this to happen, and yet AXIZ are still keeping fairly even, and I'm not sure where this gold differential is coming from.
Maybe it's one lane's had like a couple cannons or something and someone's missed out on them. I know that it's actually fairly difficult to track those through the CS stats, so maybe that's the case. Regardless, Kassin is going to take down that Drake, nice at the 7-minute mark, so still has a little bit of time to move towards the top side to contest that Herald if he wants to.
And for Kassin, it's not even a contest. That should be his Herald. With the amount of pressure that Nap is putting in that top lane right now, they get to call the shots and when they want to engage. You can see that Nap has half a level lead as well on Yellow Yoshi, which is pretty important because usually level 8 is going to be around that Herald time as well. And you can see Nap taking advantage here of that mini Gnar, trying to get that poke down as well. And it's coming down to Swamp to try and salvage the top side. He is level 6, has that onslaught of shadows. Where's that first big ult going to go?
Yeah, and I mean, the game is currently 0-0-0. If you're a Hecarim and the Volibear hasn't completely destroyed you in the early game, you're feeling pretty fine, right? You are even pretty much in terms of itemization. You're even on experience. You're even like on CS. It's going quite well for AXIZ jungler right now, but we do need to start seeing those ultimates coming through from Swamp, those unstoppable onslaughts into the backline, splitting up Hybrid, isolating Kaito, and then Megumin and Sanctuary following up with the damage. We did see AXIZ rotate their bot lane towards the top side of the map. CJ a little bit slower on that play though, so AXIZ could actually secure this Herald without much contest.
Yeah, Hybrid's only now moving up and Hook lands.
Dicey, but Nema not going to be pressured even further. And the Herald resets, that's so big. That means that all the time that AXIZ have invested into taking that one down, they have to do again. CJ not going to move into the river just yet, more content with securing mid priority, but Sin actually going for the fight now. Herald is going to be taken very low and taken out by Swamp, but here comes Zap on the backside, flashing forward with the Ruthless Predator, and the Ruthless Predators are everyone on CJ. Hybrid not quite able to get that kill, as the Realm Warp goes forward onto Yellow Yoshi, who has no way out into the Mini-R form. Gonna be mauled in just a second time. And CJ, whilst they miss out on that Herald, they get a very nice fight after it.
That's fine. Herald is 2 guaranteed plates, and with the kills that they secured, they'll probably go ahead and get those plates. Hybrid getting the mid lane plate there, and Nap should get 1 top. So as long as they make sure that they don't lose a turret or that they can defend the Herald push, CJ are up ahead, and those 3 kills as well. Middle caught. The way the fight started out didn't look too good, because Kassin went in and didn't quite get all the way in, took all that damage and got chunked up. But Nap, we're saying that Nap has a lead in the top side, and he's converted that lead massively. Sangchu is lucky to have gone out with slivers of health.
I don't think that Nema's going to be getting out even with slivers of HP, as he's just overstepped in that jungle and been taken down. AXIZ secure their first kill of the game, but I'm not sure how much more they can actually get from it.
They're looking to continue this gank train, though. Still looking bot, and Onslaught of Shadows is still up and available here.
Kassin, though,
they didn't go fast enough.
In the area at the perfect time. Swamp of Dicey not going to be able to cause Hybrid too many problems because of the Volibear being that presence in the bot side. And you were talking about how this CS lead in the top lane was problematic for AXIZ. It has just got even worse, and Hybrid has even been able to produce a lead of himself in this bot lane. So not only is CJ getting kills, they're just naturally getting advantages in lanes.
Yep, and that came from that Herald fight as well. The fact that AXIZ rotated everybody up early. Hybrid got to catch the extra wave in the bot lane, went mid, and caught the extra wave in the mid lane as well here. So definitely an issue that the Zeri is starting to scale up a little bit. Remember, we said Zeri will get tanky if she goes that bruiser build, and look at those items. Hybrid building towards like that Trinity Force already here, and it closes that window for AXIZ. So a little bit concerned for this bot, for this top, and even for this mid here, where Megumin on this Syndra hasn't been able to create any sort of meaningful lead, and Rise also will outscale in time.
Yeah. Being CS down 12 minutes into the game, 11 minutes into the game as a Syndra, feels bad. Having to itemize those Merc treads early as well. I get why Megumin has done it, because Kassin obviously with the on-hit stun, Nema as well has got a lot of CC, and then of course Kaito himself is able to put that down. But when you're delaying your first mythic, your first itemization spike, it means that the burst damage that this Syndra is putting out isn't quite going to be as high as maybe she would like. Kassin has been lurking around this mid lane for quite a while, just staying out of vision, but will be spotted by Megumin there.
Yeesh. When we talk about junglers, we always like to talk about efficiency, right? Trying to make sure that you're not wasting time, that you could be clearing camps or applying pressure elsewhere. Unfortunately for Kassin, there's a reason why he was 0-0-0 before that Herald fight, right? Just has been struggling to get that early aggression down, to find action here, and it's still continuing here, Middle Court. We said that Kassin looks best when he's on early junglers, getting those early ganks. He got 1 out of 2. Now the question is, can you force something else here? Dragon is up, and it was the objective last time that got CGA their big lead.
And they are forcing AXIZ out of the river. No mythics yet complete by anyone in the game. So if we're talking about effective power, both teams sort of at parity, but CGA just that little bit stronger, able to force their way into that river and take out the Drake. Swamp now moving into the bottom lane. Pirate plates have still got a minute or so until they fall off. So Shelly, if she's escorted in properly, should be able to secure a little bit of gold for Sanctu and the like. But CGA are not going to respond to this play poorly. They are bringing multiple members, making this a 3v4. Committed the ult from Kassin, the flash forward from Kaito as he chases down Sanctu under the tower. Make that a double as Hybrid's going to skate forward and look for Swamp. A very fast pony will be able to escape, but once again, CGA pulled the trigger on a play that AXIZ started.
Yeah, and that is Swamp's first gank, or first sort of lane influence here, and it did not go well. The Herald became a bait, and sure, Herald got the charge, it got the 2 plates, but guess what? Sangchu, Dicey, they didn't get gold for it. It all went to Swamp because they were already running away, and Hybrid's now answering back. So that Herald was not only less than a net zero play for AXIZ, they're actually going to lose more on the back end because of all those kills that they did give up. And the fight's fairly clear cut. I mean, you realm warp, you have a numbers advantage here, and you can see that even with the onslaught of shadows, you just can't get enough distance. Swamp actually has to burn Ghost to escape, and that's going to mean that Swamp, all his engage tools are going to be down for the next minute.
And the thing is, when you see teams have this trade in the early game where one team gets 2 dragons, the other team gets a herald, generally you expect the team with a herald to be coming out of the early game with a gold advantage. That's not the case here. No. AXIZ is 3k down and they're in that objective deficit. So when that next Drake spawns in 4 minutes time, they're not really going to be in the best position to contest for it. And CGA may be able to secure themselves a relatively easy sell point. Sanctu securing that bot lane tower to pick up the objective bounty is important. More gold into this Kai'Sa is good, but I'm not sure if it's going to be good enough to push AXIZ through this game.
Yeah, that's probably one of the closer lanes in terms of gold right now, about 600 difference, but that is still 600 in favor of Hybrid. So congrats, you got objective gold, you got first brick. You're still generally down in terms of where your team is. And now Herald's about to spawn again. You can see AXIZ are calling for it. They want to try and contest this. Onslaught of Shadows is up and available. But when you look at these item power spikes, I'm counting 3 mythics for the side of CGA. And AXIZ, 1 mythic plus a stacking mana immune here. Sanctu is so far away from being relevant right now.
And you can see that our Narwhal side have recognized that they're not in the best position to fight and are just going to give up this Herald. Second Herald, probably not as strong as the first one since those plates have fallen off. It's more just to secure a little bit of priority in lane. Maybe you can take down this mid lane tower though, and that would allow CGA to push their vision lines deeper into AXIZ's jungle and make these proactive plays even more reliable.
Good call there, Middle Cod. I mean, obviously CJ agreeing with you. CJ fan service there, recognizing what their fans want. And normally I agree with you. Like second Herald generally isn't as impactful, but that first Herald wasn't very impactful either.
True.
And this one cracks open a mid outer, so it opens up the map right now for CGA to start pressuring in further. There's bot, there's top as well, and neither bot nor top for AXIZ is terribly healthy with that pressure. If they can continue maintaining that pressure mid here, they can isolate one of the side lanes where Nap, where Hybrid, where Nema, all of them have been winning these side lanes.
Yeah, it's strange that CJ find themselves in an advantage of this size without having taken down many of those outer towers, but that just means that when they use the lead that they've already got to find advantageous fights, the rewards that they can get off of winning those fights are even greater. And we were alluding to this Drake spawning in around about a minute's time as being a potential flashpoint for these teams. And whilst AXIZ, they've got some mythics online now, they've got that chem tank for Swamp and that Luden's Tempest secured for Megamin. Sanctu probably not going to be at max mirror mana stacks before that fight, so he's going to be very, very underpowered, and CGA are still going to be in a position to take it. If AXIZ can secure a pick before the fight, though, it's going to look good for them. Kaito will back away in the top side. Maybe he's going to get dove here.
Trying to dive Kaito right here is super, super risky. He hasn't completed the Fimble Winter just yet, but I don't know if the damage check is going to quite work out here. Those Merc Treads can do a lot to dissuade Megamin's damage and actually affects Hecarim damage significantly. But Middlecott, the Fates have conspired against AXIZ here because the soul for this game is Cloud Soul. And normally Cloud Soul is probably one of the lesser important souls when it comes to combat, but not for Zeri. Zeri is one of the big exceptions to that. If Zeri gets that movement speed when she first pops her ultimate, it only goes downhill from there. So CJ really going to want to prioritize this Drake, even if they have to give up turrets, even if they have to give up bounties, because soul point is so important for them.
And AXIZ have really sort of laid down the gauntlet here. They've really thrown down the gauntlet here. They have said that at some point in the next 5 minutes, before that fourth Drake spawns, we're going to fight you and we're going to win. If that doesn't happen, it looks really damn rough for them.
Yeah, as if the game hasn't been rough enough. They've got 1 kill here, The proactivity hasn't been there. But I fully agree with you. They need to make that play soon. They just gave up that dragon for free, and I respect the decision. They got that top side turret. They got the objective goal. They're just trying to set themselves up for a good fight. And like I mentioned, Sanctu's still not fully stacked now. My issue is, will Sanctu be fully stacked for that next fight right now? At the rate he's going, it's not looking particularly good, if anything. And the next fight might not even be at Dragon. Baron's coming up in under 2 minutes here. And while it is a bit of a stretch for CJA to try and sneak that, if they can win a team fight, Baron's definitely on the table.
Yeah, I mean, if there's 5 members of AXIZ in the death chamber, then I think that Baron becomes a much more of a likely possibility. As it stands, though, no one on AXIZ dead at the moment. It's been a game that definitely hasn't favored them so far, but definitely a more slower paced game. When the fight's broken out, they have been explosive, but for the most part, it's been stuff like this, pushing in side lanes, trying to get micro advantages. That was a little bit of that standing gold that we were talking about. Crest Gaming Active now picked up all 3 of those outer towers, so got that gold, could push the vision a little bit further. Feeling pretty good about this final game of the split.
Now, Middlecott, because I'm not a huge fan of CGA, not an anti-fan, just not a huge fan of CGA. Okay. This game has been a little bit slow for me to watch. Yeah. I appreciate their macro, well played. I mean, they are getting all these objectives, but surely as a CGA fan, you're happy to see them, try and warm up, get themselves in good form for playoffs. Do you think this will actually last into playoffs?
So generally, there has been a trend with CGA throughout this split. When they do nothing in the early game, they tend to lose. And they tend to lose quite badly. And this actually happened last time that they played against AXIZ. Game was a bit more back and forth, but fundamentally, CGA weren't able to secure leads on Hybrid in the early game. And that meant that once they got to sort of the mid and the late game team fights, they didn't have this hyper-fed AD carry that could be a hyper carry. And they ultimately ended up going down. I think they're in a much better position this time, though. We've got that Trinity Force, we've got that Titanic Hydra completed for Hybrid as well, and Sanctu still just sat on uncompleted components for the most part.
Okay,
Emma now looking for Swamp, who will be forced to ult away. Actually fears up Nema, and that's a beautiful scat of the week from Megaman, but it doesn't even matter. 5 members of Crest Gaming Act focusing down in the top side. This Tower is going to be the next focus. Mid lane, well, the wave is a little bit thin, but no one from AXIZ can really approach. They don't have the wave clear to deal with this, and that's another one of those towers, another piece of that standing gold going down.
Okay, and that hyper carry, like you're talking about, Hybrid just dishing out the damage right here, and you can see AXIZ don't want anything to do with it, and it's partially vision control once again coming through for AXIZ, that they're not aware who's in the area, right? Megumin should not be allowed to push up that far, and because they had 2 wards, I think it kind of baited Megaman into peace of mind, saying, oh, they're not really here. But you need more comprehensive vision, especially when you can't see anyone on the map. TP behind.
AXIZ trying to TP to take down the mid lane tower, but they're just going to get turned on themselves. Kassin going golden to buy a little bit of time for his team to turn up and just wipe AXIZ. Already 2 kills, a 3rd secured by Hybrid. And I think that might be Baron, RMC.
Yeah, you don't need 5 in the death chamber. 3 is good enough. Your granted Swamp is still up, but Onslaught of Shadows isn't back up yet. And I don't know if they tracked the timing because it did get used in the top side turret here.
Solar Flare into the stun, into the Zenith Blade. Good push back there, but the flash forward from Kaito into the Rune Prison will secure the CC and secure the kill for the CGA mid laner. 1 more picked up at the end of the fight, and with Swamp on the bot side clearing away CGA's red buff, I don't think there's going to be much of a contest on this Baron.
No, Swamp's not even going to try and go to that top side. You know it's being done, but this is probably the safer call. Safer, but certainly less entertaining. And it just shows that AXIZ has been avoiding the fights for so long because they were scared of that numbers advantage, and they were right to do so. The moment CGA forced this fight, they win it. And you look at the Force too, it's not a coordinated 5-man collapse initially. Kassin dives in, almost dies. Nap's coming in the backside. If AXIZ had just turned around as 5, maybe they could try and burst down Nap instead. But yeah, their AXIZ is scared, and CGA is just too strong. And that gold lead has only grown. 8,000 gold lead after Baron's been taken right now. And Soul Point as well, soon to be on the table. If AXIZ couldn't win that fight, it's only downhill from here. AXIZ now need uneven numbers for a hope to win a team fight.
And I tell you what, if you're a CGA fan right now, and I can tell you this because I am a CGA fan right now. This is amazing. You've got the Baron buff on for another 2 minutes, overlapping with this Cloud Soul spawning. It means that you're going to have permanent priority in the lanes that you need to. You can rotate over to take this Drake with ease. Kassin is already doing it. And AXIZ recognize that they can't move in. And that gambit that they laid down, that gauntlet, that challenge that they threw to CGA of we think we're going to be stronger than you before you can get this soul, hasn't really been answered at all. AXIZ still only on the single kill. And now with that soul for CGA, they can continue to push. And AXIZ, they're not responding.
No, they're so slow to move to this because they wanted to split push the other side, but you're up against a Baroned up team. You will not win a base race against them. And look at what CJ has done as well. 3 people pushing bot side means Kassin gets to apply the pressure. And if you go for Kassin, you might lose your inhibitor turret. And
Swamp recognizes that and doesn't want to go for it, but AXIZ, you need to do something at some point because you're just going to continue to bleed out. Gold lead is now 8,000 in CGA's favor, and items are getting even harder to compete with for the side of AXIZ. You need to go for something soon, otherwise you are just going to lose.
Yeah, they just lost an inhibitor turret, and that means bot side inhibitor open inhib for a team that is stronger is just free here. They can at any time kind of choose to brute force that one. You know, Middlecott, you're saying that AXIZ kind of threw down a gauntlet that, hey, we'll fight you before the next soul. It started to look like they didn't throw the gauntlet, they dropped the glove. And it's just not the same here. It's not that they wanted to challenge, it's that they didn't have any options, and it's going from bad to worse. This is what I'm talking about. They're just brute forcing this turret, and meanwhile, Kaito still split pushing mid.
AXIZ, they just took an inhib, guys. Are you going to let them do that? Sanctu's got that Muramana completed now, so this Kaiser is actually at a relatively strong point into the game. Dicey hooking minions isn't going to secure you guys the dub, and this has kind of just been AXIZ throughout this entire season. They've had some good ideas. They've had some interesting thoughts about the way to play the game, but too often they found themselves 25 minutes into the game, down an extortionate amount of gold, down a load of objectives as well, and not really in a position where they can find a fight.
And now it looks like they're trying to go for it when Megumin's not with you. This ain't it. And Baron buff has worn out, so CJ need to reset. But the scary part is how much gold they got during that Baron power play. And now they get to go back, they get to spend items. Sure, Sangchu might be on that 2 items now, but where is Hybrid on this back? Does Hybrid get 3 items? Is he going to be a full item up? And meanwhile, top side as well, mid lane, all these questions. Mid lane, Kaito with Thimble Winter, as well as, you know, the beginnings of that Frozen Heart, the Glacial Shield there. This is terrifying because now you can't kill Kaito. Kaito's going to do damage. Hybrid, you're not going to kill Hybrid. He's got a stopwatch. He's going to do damage. How is AXIZ supposed to win a team fight?
I think that CGA will not want them to be brutally honest.
I asked the wrong person the wrong question. Of course you're not going to tell me how
do they win a team fight? Well,
fight.
I mean, it requires some like DDoS shenanigans, maybe routers being unplugged and the like. Sanctu is continuing to throw out these Void Seekers. They should be doing a lot more damage, but the thing is, CJ have got an effective tank line, and that means that even when you're landing 2-man Scatter the Weeks, the engage can just get turned around on you. This is maybe a little bit too aggressive from Nema as he goes into that stopwatch to buy a little bit more time, but Dicey is still a little bit too far up, and Hybrid can put some shots in his back. Will be hooked up though, but goes into the Zhonya's perfectly timed, and that means that there's no way he's going down, and that means that he could take out the rest of AXIZ, and CJ could clean up this fight, clean up this game, and end their season with a win.
Yeah, and that was exactly what we're talking about, right? Who are you going to kill on the side of CGA? We saw all the stopwatches come in through, 3 of them in that fight. In fact, Kaito didn't, actually 4, because Nema started with 1. Kaito didn't have to use his, right? So really well played from CGA, 15-1. This is not the game I was hoping for, Middlecott, but this one's going to make fans happy because this is probably one of CGA's cleaner games this split.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's always the sticking point for this team. It feels like we know there's talent there. We know there are players that can make big things happen, but it's whether they're going to be able to do that on a consistent basis, whether you can actually do that week into week. And looking towards playoffs, RMC, I think consistency is key.
Yep, because unfortunately for CGA, they are going to be starting in that lower side of the bracket. They're not in the Juggernaut, so they've got quite a few games to get through here, Middlecott. So consistency key. And Kassin being able to win without having early pressure, that certainly bodes well for CGA.
It's a W indeed. We are going to be breaking down that game in a little bit more detail in a few minutes' time and running through all of the day's games in short order as well. We're going to be heading to this quick break. Join us after it for the post game.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Smart Swan with Middlecon and Random M Caster to end out the day. Gentlemen, Crest Gaming Act was victorious, going 10 and 11 at the end. Middlecon, you must feel rather good to end in a almost 50-50 win rate. That's very CGA-esque.
Yeah, no, the most flippy team in the entirety of the history of the LJL, nearly ending up at the end of the split with a 50-50 record. It does feel like fate. This game particularly, though, not the most impressive thing I've seen. I would have liked to see a little bit more early action from both teams. It feels like the final game of the split that doesn't really matter too much for standings should have more than one kill at like 17 minutes into it. But I digress. A win for CJ, a clean win for CJ. And even though it's against AXIZ, who are one of these lower teams, I feel like that is still a minor confidence boost towards players for a team that has been looking a little bit weak.
I'm going to come to you, RMC, because I got a bone to pick with AXIZ, I do. And you're going to be the defender for them.
Nope, I will not be the defender for them.
Nope. Well, then please explain to me why when Poppy is left open for the Poppy man himself, they don't ask. It was R5. Why did they not R5 it?
I don't know. You heard me. You heard the frustration and disappointment in my voice when they didn't do that. And they picked the Gnar. And like Middlecott said, is there a more LJL way to end it? No. But was there a better way for AXIZ to end it? Yes, 100 times over, yes. And you have a bone to pick about that Poppy last one. I've got a bone to pick about the entire way they played the game. Middlecott, you complained 1 kill at 16 minutes here. I'm complaining about 1 kill the entire bloody game for AXIZ. One. Just one. That's all they got.
AXIZ have I think struggled after really the second half of the second round robin. They have looked nowhere near as on form, especially as other teams, specifically like Crest Gaming Act and the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, have improved over as the split has gone on.
Yeah,
they feel like they're always just kind of a step behind. And I think this was a perfect representation of that happening, Middlecott.
Yeah, well, they were late to a lot of plays in the early game. There's that Herald fight, of course, which obviously they pick up that Herald in the end, but the resulting fight really doesn't go their way. And RMC alluded to it on the cast. If you're not getting a lot of gold efficiency out of this Herald take, out of the whole setup for it, then you end up being in a really rough position.
Yeah, and on top of that too, we mentioned too, the scaling did not favor AXIZ. They had a window of opportunity and they needed to maximize it. They simply didn't. Swamp, especially on this Hecarim, you're a power farming jungler. When you hit 6 onslaught of shadows, that first ultimate is so important. You didn't use it. Where was the engage? I think I saw better engage coming out from Dicey getting Zenith bladed than I did on Swamp for most of this game.
I mean, how much of that though is just Kassin being so cracked though, Middlecott?
None of it.
I mean, that's that's what I want to. That's why I'm disappointed.
No, I know.
Because that's the spot where you'd expect that to be, right? That's where you'd be like, the other jungler is so insane, and you're like, no.
I mean, Kassin, like I really rate Kassin. I think he's an exceptional jungler. I personally, alongside Ted Pro, put him third on my All Pro because I think whilst the lows can be quite low, the highs are amazing.
They are so sweet.
But he didn't need to play for them this game. He didn't need to do the constant invading. He didn't need to try and pressurize Swamp out of his own jungle because Swamp wasn't really doing anything on the map. And I think that it's interesting that both of our final games with both of our bottom teams have been characterized by junglers lacking proactivity. And I think that the meta that we've had over the entirety of the spring has been about junglers being facilitators for their teams. Yes, the Hecarim coming in is a bit more of a carry, but that's still a champion that excels in skirmishes, excels in team fights. And if you're not opting into those, then you're not playing the champions properly.
I agree. You're not. And I mean, ultimately, this is just kind of how the meta has broken out. AXIZ, previously of the Smite top meta, were actually looking slightly favored in that kind of place as the meta shifted. It kind of showed us that this rookie team definitely still has a few things to learn currently. And I think that's where we'll have to end our conversation on AXIZ and CGA. CGA look promising. I believe they've locked up 5th place, 1 game behind Burning Core. And actually, I'm just going to have the standings come up on screen, gentlemen, as the official team is doing that at the moment. DFM in 1st place, Sengoku Gaming 2nd, RJ 3rd, Burning Core in 4th, Crest Gaming at 5th, Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming in 6th, AXIZ in 7th, and without picking up a win, sadly, V3 Esports in 8th place.
Yeah. Bit of an
it's a weird spot to be in. It's a weird spot to see a team not get a win.
I think it's weird to see a 0 in the W's column. I think that seeing
especially
V3 in last place, especially in the LJL, seeing V3 in last place is not something that I think we were too. I don't think that's too much of a surprise. And I like the way that these standings have actually ended up rounding out because we've got some very clear tiers emerging here. Well, that have been the case throughout the split. DFM right there at the top, Sengoku and Rascal Jester. A couple of those teams that I'd say in many ways are DFM light, have got some very strong players, have got good lanes, strong macro play, but aren't quite on that same level. Then you've got your Burning Cores and your CGAs that have got great players, but are just way too inconsistent to really challenge for those top of the table spots. Then as you precipitate lower down, Hawks, AXIZ sort of fighting off for that final playoff spot, and then V3, just completely out of the picture.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when we do learn who Rascal Jesters are going to pick for, as they will be at the top of the lower bracket, so they are going to have to be playing a lot going into this one. Back over to us, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be really important to see like who they pick. Are they going to pick CGA? Are they going to pick the Hawks? I mean, Middlecott. I don't really know how much we want to recap today. Personally, I'm already kind of done. And I'd like to look a bit more forward now. If you were Crest Gaming Act right now, and you're sat in 5th/6th place, you are not getting side selection, and either Rascal Jesters or Burning Core are going to pick. Who do you want to be picked?
Well, I mean, if you've been watching the LJL this split, I think it's pretty clear that you want to be playing against Burning Core if you're CGA. I think going into that matchup against Rascal Jester is going to be really rough for whatever team is on the other end of it.
But you said they're the coin flip team, so surely there's a chance.
The coin is weighted. The coin is weighted. You can only coin flip so much, and it turns out that when you try and coin flip against good teams, what they do is they catch the coin in midair and just pocket it and run away.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm going to come over to you, RMC. Let's move away from CGA getting probably a match versus Burning Core, because I think on the other side, the Hawks have to be kind of shaking in their boots, because I'll be honest, all three of these teams look really scary against them at the moment, in my opinion.
Agreed. And, like what Middlecott said, there's DFM at the top, and then below them, Rascal Justice and Goku. And for Hawks, what they had wanted to do was look imposing enough so that whoever ended up in third place, Rascal Justice in this case, wouldn't pick them. But their last two games here have been kind of shaky. And granted, today was against DFM. We can ignore that. But you can't ignore them losing the Burning Core here. And that's critical.
But the Rascal Jesters are the ones that beat DFM. So if I look at them and just go like, yum, small pickings.
Laws of transitive properties. That's how it works.
Not exactly. Transitive properties in League of Legends. You assume League of Legends is a logical game. It's not. So that doesn't transfer over.
Yeah.
But more importantly, too, I do think that the Hawks are in an interesting position, because I think the Hawks, when they're good, look even better than CGA when CGA looks good. But at the same time, Hawks recently, not so great. And also, if you're vulnerable, you can get punished.
RMC, do you really think Rascal Jester want to pick the coin flip team? There is a chance it just comes up heads the wrong 3 times. In a honestly, best of 5.
They're all coin flip teams.
Yeah, is Hawks any less of a coin flip than CGA right now?
I would say no, because I think CGA are the biggest coin flip team. They actually, I would genuinely believe if in a spot in a best of 5 that CJ could take a game from DFM. Like, genuinely, I would believe you if they said one random game.
Randomly, Kasim ganks bot twice in 2 minutes, and Hybrid gets 2 double kills. And then, and then it's over.
And Kaito doesn't get gapped. Like, that is an actual world I can live in. Whereas, I don't see the Hawks doing that currently. Maybe Summer. Some of me will be confident in that. I'll get the hopium going for that one, but not currently. Gentlemen, lastly, hot take. Sengoku secured the spot in 2nd place. That's one of the biggest stories, honestly, for today, because over the last few games of this round robin, it was like, okay, well, the big matchup is Sengoku versus Rascal Jester. Obviously, Sengoku win the head-to-head, but Sengoku still had a decently strong schedule to go through. They won out at the end. Middle court. How did this is wild.
I mean, like, the entire split has just been an absolute glut for Sengoku. We were talking so much in the pre-split about how we're expecting Hawks to be the big super team coming in. We kind of ignored Sengoku to a certain extent, but this man in the mid lane, Jet, coming in, I think that if you're not putting this guy as your mid lane MVP for the split, you are hard trolling. He has been incredible. But the lanes have been great as well. Paz is insanely good. We barely need to talk about Honey because it's evident just from his gameplay how insane he is. And the supporting pieces are also there as well. I think that DFM Light is the perfect way to characterize this team, because not only do they have those strong laners and that excellent macro play, they can contest a lot of teams just in the lanes, which is the way that DFM can find a lot of their advantages. I'm so excited to see these two play off in the Juggernaut match. I think it is going to be another banger.
RMC, over to you. Same question. Sengoku versus DFM. What's your thoughts on this?
I fully agree. You know what Middlecott was saying. It is DFM versus DFM Light. Now, I think DFM is still incredibly favored, at least in the first round of the Juggernaut match. But my question is, what happens when Sengoku Gaming plays against them, loses, say, 3 games here, drops down, and then kind of powers their way through that lower bracket? I think maybe they can really apply and hone those abilities. And that's the big question mark for me for Sengoku. Not so much how's their match against DFM going to go, but what happens after that match in the lower bracket.
To the gods of the LJL, please do not give us a repeat of Spring 2020 where Sengoku actually win the Juggernaut match, but because of environmental reasons out of all of our controls in the world, We had to change patches during playoffs, and it completely screwed with everything.
Yeah.
And DFM were able to get that W. Obviously, no one went to MSI, but it should have been in the history books probably a second. Regardless, we could be in a really exciting one if history looks to repeat itself. Those finals could be very spicy. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be the end of it. We have done 21 days of the LJL. That is 48 games we have done just in this regular split, and we've got a bunch of best of fives, ladies and gentlemen. So be sure to hit that follow button below. Make sure you get your notifications on. We're going to be going live with all of our playoffs, pre-game desks, and potentially post-game, depending on the match included. We've got some big plans, so please do join us. For myself, Middlecott, Random Minion Caster, Initialize, Nightmare, and I mean just the whole team in general. Tempora as well, who also was on the broadcast today. Thank you everyone for listening and or watching if you just met us in the background. And we'll see you all very, very soon.